Welcome back everyone to Trina's Eats and Treats. I hope you all had a fantastic week this week. So on this week's video, we are going to do a Trina's treat. So you all know if it's a Trina's treat, it's going to be a dessert. And today's dessert is a recipe that my mother-in-law gave me, and she's been using it for such a long time. Like Jeff and I have been together now for almost 32 years. And I remember in the early days with Jeff, she would make this dessert. It never fails. It's delicious. And as you know, my recipes, they're really, really easy. So some people will call it blueberry pudding. Some people will call it blueberry cake. It's up to you what you call it. And after the blueberry pudding, we'll say, comes out of the oven, I'm going to show you how to make kind of like, to me, it's like an old-fashioned sauce, because I never have this kind of sauce anymore. It's just like a basic sugary caramel sauce. But no matter where you go, restaurants, anywhere, it doesn't seem like anybody makes this sauce anymore. So it's kind of like an old-fashioned sauce to me. And it's really good over the blueberry pudding. So let's get started. Number one thing, as you all know on my videos, turn your oven on 350 to get it preheated. That's the thing, right? Every week, turn it on 350. So this recipe, like I say, is very easy. The bowl, or I should say the glass dish that I'm going to put it in, is just a basic corningware dish. And the measurements, it is 8.5 by almost 11. So 8.5 by 11 glass dish. And it's probably about 2.5 inches high. It really, I find this dish really keeps the blueberry pudding intact really well. And I'm using parchment paper. And I don't know if any of you are wondering why I use a lot of parchment paper on my videos. Well, number one, it keeps your dish from, burning and getting stuff stuck on it. Number two, it cooks really well in the parchment paper. And number three, you can pull it out very easily when you're ready to cut it up. To me, parchment paper is one of the best things since sliced bread, if you ask me. So I'm going to put that there, and we're going to mix up our ingredients. So the first ingredient is 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. You know that I usually use the Scottsburn salted. You can use whatever butter you want, but this is 1/3 of a cup of melted butter in the bowl. 2/3 of a cup of just white sugar. 2 large eggs. 2 1/3 cups of flour. So this is 1 cup of flour, and this is regular all-purpose flour. That's 1 cup. Should have used my leveler. 2 cups. 1/3 of a cup. 2 cups and another 1/3 of flour. So 2 1/3 cups of flour. Next we have 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. Wrong spoon. 1. 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. Then we're going to do 1/3 of a cup of milk. Now you all know I use Natural 0%, but you can use whatever you have, 1%, 2%, 1/3 of a cup of milk. And last but not least, you have to do 2 cups of blueberries. Now I use fresh blueberries. You might ask, could you use frozen blueberries? I don't see why not, but I think I would prefer to use the fresh blueberries. 2 cups. And that's it. So I'm going to go down through the ingredients again. 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. 2/3 of a cup of sugar. 2 large eggs. 2 1/3 cups of regular old all-purpose flour. 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 of a cup of milk, anything that you want, 1%, 2%, whatever you have on hand, and 2 cups of blueberries. That's it. That's all that goes in it. So all you do right now is you mix it up really well. In other words, you're going to take charge of this. I got a little funny story to tell you about this. Many years ago, I was helping my dad when I was home from university one summer, and he was going to paint the deck. And so I was out mixing up the paint. And I think I was mixing the paint like you'd mix up a cup of tea. And Dad is just standing there looking at me, and he's like, training my dare, he said, you got to take charge of the paint. You got to take charge of the paint. It was so funny that day. That was probably 30 years ago, and Jeff and I still laugh about that to this day because it was just so funny back then. So you're going to take charge of this and mix it up really well. Now, as you all know, when you're making some kind of a cake, sometimes you're going to find that your mixture is a little bit too soft. So if it is, you're going to put a little bit of flour in with it. But if it's too dry, you're going to put a little bit of milk in with it. So, just to keep that in mind. This one actually looks pretty good, but I think I'm going to add a tiny bit of milk. I'm going to add like maybe 2 teaspoons, because you'd be surprised how far that goes. 2 teaspoons of milk. Loosen it up a little bit more. Wow, that is looking really good, folks. I'm going to show you the consistency that you're looking for on this before I put it in here. Wow, okay, that looks really good. So do you see that? That's what it's supposed to look like, almost like a bit doughy like that. That's mixed in really well. And it's like almost a little bit doughy, as you can see what I'm doing here. So all that there is left to do is to put it in here. Get a good grip on it. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. And then I just press it down into the parchment paper really well. Up and down to the sides. Even though this is in parchment paper, it's going to come out so nice. This is delicious when it comes out and it's soft. So once this comes out of the oven after an hour, I'm going to show you how to do what I would call an old-fashioned sauce. And try to have it level from one end to the other. Wow, that looks so good. That's perfect. Just look at this, folks. That comes out beautifully. Now, basically, what you're going to do is you're going to put this in the oven for an hour. And you're going to check it after 50 minutes because it's supposed to be golden brown on top. So make sure you check it after 50 minutes and see if it's golden brown. If it is, take it out after the 50. If it's not quite there, leave it in for the full 60 minutes on the 350. So now we're going to put this in the oven. 350. I'm going to put it on for 50 minutes and check it. And then I'm going to meet you back here in an hour, and we're going to do the blueberry sauce that goes on top of this blueberry pudding. It's not a blueberry sauce, it's a caramel sugary sauce. It's absolutely delicious. It's simple, and we're going to make that to put on our blueberry pudding when it comes out of the oven. I'll see you in an hour. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so remember I told you that you need to check your blueberry pudding after 50 minutes. So mine was in the oven for 50 minutes. I just took it out, and as you can see, just look. It is absolutely beautiful, golden brown on the top like it's supposed to be. And I already got it taken out with the parchment paper, laying it out to cool. It looks absolutely delicious. And of course, now I'm going to show you how to make the sauce. So like I told you before, to me this is like an old-fashioned sauce. And these are the ingredients for the sauce. I'm going to turn on the burner. First thing that we need is a half a cup of brown sugar. Half a cup of brown sugar. Then we're going to use a half a cup of golden corn syrup. Now I used the Crown, and it's just golden corn syrup. You can get it at any grocery store. You need a half a cup of this. You need a half of a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of salt. So this is a half of a teaspoon of salt. Then 2 teaspoons of butter. Now I like to use just a regular spoon when I'm doing this because it's too hard to get out of the actual ones like these when you're doing butter. So 2 teaspoons of butter. 1, 2 teaspoons of butter. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now, I'm going to tell you, this recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. However, I am a vanilla lover, and I love the taste that the vanilla puts on the sauce. So, for my personal preference, if you don't like vanilla that well, only put in 1, but I'm putting in 2 because I like it so well. And that's it. That's all the sauce is. Half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of corn syrup, a half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of butter, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but I use 2 because I love vanilla. And now we're just going to mix this up. Folks, I wish you could smell this kitchen. And I wish you could smell this sauce. I'm just started mixing up sauce now. And the smell of the vanilla coming off the sauce is to die for. It is so good. And you are going to mix this until all the ingredients are melted together. Like the butter and the sugar and salt all blended together. This is a dessert that company loves. If you're having someone over for supper and you want to do a really good dessert that people enjoy, do this dessert. People are going to love it. It tastes so good. And see, I used the parchment paper. My dish is clean. Oh my goodness, does that ever smell nice. Now, basically what we're doing right now is this is all blended together. But you want it to come to a boil for probably 2 or 3 seconds. And then you're going to take it off. And then it's ready. So we're not quite there yet. It's not quite at the boiling stage. It's almost. Okay, it is now. Come over and get a closer look. This is what I'm talking about. You see now it's starting to boil? So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's long enough. That's how fast the sauce happens. So So now we're going to do a taste test like we do every week, of course. And we're going to cut out a piece of our pudding. Oh my goodness. It's so full of beautiful blueberries. Look at this. Just look at that. The heat coming from it is just so nice and warm still, because I just took it out of the oven, of course. Then we're going to drizzle this over our pudding. I am telling you folks, this is absolutely delicious. This reminds me of an old-fashioned Newfoundland pudding. The sauce part. So there you have it. Look at this. It's absolutely delicious. We're going to do a taste test as we do every week. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely to die for. I know I say it every week. It's a 10 out of 10. Absolutely delicious. Everyone will love it. Cheers to you every week. If you enjoyed this video today, I pray that I ask that you'll give me a thumbs up. And if you got any comments, anything, questions, whatever, put it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I would really appreciate it if you did that. It would help me out a lot. And until the next one, enjoy your blueberry pudding when you make it. See you later.